Good morning. Good morning. I'm Eric Blank, and this is the Commissioners' Weekly Meeting for Wednesday, August 21st, 2024. Commissioner Gilman, any preliminary comments? Are you ready to approve the consent agenda as presented?
No, sorry, I lost my voice in a battle with the cold last week. I would vote to approve the consent agenda as presented.
As would I. Um, Let's go to proceeding number 24AL-0275E, number 2 under energy, the Black Hills rate case proceeding schedule. Ms. Freeman.
Morning, Commissioners. I'm Ellie Friedman of your advisory staff. First, I want to note that the Commission decision directing the filing of a procedural schedule in this proceeding has been corrected. It was listed as C240580I, but the correct number is C240581I. So last Friday, Black Hills filed a proposed procedural schedule as directed by decision number C240581I. The parties were to propose a procedural schedule in which the evidentiary hearing concluded by December 6th with statements of position filed by the beginning of January of 2025. These requirements would allow the Commission to deliberate and issue an order on rates before the March 22nd, 2025 statutory deadline. The Commission also directed the parties to propose public comment hearing date. So in this proceeding, Black Hills has filed the direct testimony of 14 witnesses, and the interveners may sponsor, there's 11 interveners, and they may sponsor as many as 35 witnesses in the evidentiary hearing. So given that there could be nearly 50 witnesses in the hearing, the parties suggest the evidentiary hearing should be scheduled for at least 8 days. Working with the goal of completing the evidentiary hearing by December 6th, the parties established a procedural schedule that has the hearing beginning the week of Thanksgiving. COSACIA objected to this schedule, and Energy Outreach Colorado expressed concern about the overlapping school holiday schedules and the evidentiary hearing. So Black Hills staff and UCA developed an alternative schedule that begins the hearing on December 2nd and ends on December 11th. In this, this is outside the parameters set by the Commission's directive, but allows additional time to file answer testimony and to file any possible settlements. Black Hills noted that the parties did not address any proposed modifications for rules for discovery procedures because they're uncertain as to testimony filing dates. So the schedule that's referred to as the non-holiday procedural schedule requires supplemental direct testimony to be due on August 28th, answer testimony on October 11th, rebuttal and cross answer on November 8th, with settlements due November 20th. The hearing would begin on December 2nd and conclude on December 11th. Public comment hearings are proposed for Pueblo on September 23rd and in Canyon City on November 15th. So I have several recommendations unless you have questions or would like any discussion on these points.
No, if you could go to your recommendations, that'd be great.
So we recommend the Commission adopt the non-holiday procedural schedule as presented by Black Hills with the hearing dates beginning December 2nd, but adopting the schedule without the proposed public comment hearing dates. Commission staff can work with Pueblo to confirm venue availability and coordinate with Commissioner calendars. And then the Commission can issue an order at a later date regarding the scheduling of public comment hearings. So we would recommend the non-holiday procedural schedule modified to not include the public comment hearing dates at this time.
That makes a lot of sense to me. The Thanksgiving dates are problematic for my personal schedule, and appreciate the opportunity to more flexibly set the in-person hearing date. So thanks to you for both. Commissioner Gilman, what do you think?
Yeah, sorry, I have to get really close to you all. That sounds reasonable to me. Just curious, Ms. Friedman, in reviewing some of the information, it seemed like several parties were not happy with the holiday schedule. And so there's this alternative that goes a little later, but it doesn't seem as though that was run by every party. So I guess, is that something we expect to happen in pretty short order after this?
Well, yeah, in the filing, Black Hills noted that they did not present it to all of the parties because it didn't meet the requirements that the Commission had set in their decision. Then several of the parties had some issues, but several also said it doesn't matter, they were fine. So if the commission adopts this procedure schedule in the filing, Black Hills and had laid out that this schedule kind of worked pretty much to compromise with the specific issues that various parties had.
Okay. Yeah, I think that sounds reasonable. That's a good way to proceed. Thanks, Ms. Freeman.
Thanks.
Okay.
With that, we recommend that you modify paragraph 26 of decision C2405881I to allow the evidentiary hearings to conclude by December 11th, 2024.
Commissioner Gutman?
Yes.
Good by me too.
Okay, we recommend that the commission maintain the rules for discovery procedures found at rules 1405B and D. If through a consensus, the parties want to amend these deadlines, they should do that through a filing no later than August 28th.
Commissioner Gutman?
Yes.
Good by me.
And finally, with this, we recommend that you vacate the pre-hearing conference that was scheduled in this proceeding for tomorrow, August 22nd.
Works for me. Commissioner Gutman?
Yes.
Right. So with that vacating, I'm assuming this can be an ABC order?
That'd be great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Friedman. Proceeding number 22A-0315. E.g., Mr. Mendelson, Ms. Dundas.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. I'm Mike Mendelson of your advisory team. I'm joined by Ms. Dundas of Commission Counsel. Last week, CWM, Ms. Dundas presented to you a public service notice of success and DSM program stoppage, a motion by EEBC and SWEEP for a declaratory order and injunction, and a public service motion regarding energy efficiency budgetary pressures that was filed on the 12th of August. The Commission issued a set of questions to public service to understand the specifics and lead up to the expected overage with responses to this past Monday, 8/19. The Commission also established a deadline of 8/19 for responses to the public services motion. The company's motion indicated originally that the company had spent a total of $74.2 million as of July 31 in its mostly in its business programs. The company is operating its DSM and BE programs under its 2023 plan, which provides a total budget, including flexibility, of $92.9 million. The company indicated total expenditure, if the programs are not paused, is likely to require an incremental $34.1 million to the budget, or $127 million for 2024 total. The company offered three options the Commission could take to solve this problem. Its preferred solution is to increase the electric EE budget for calendar year 2024 by $34.1 million. The company would maintain all electric EE programs and offerings. In managing to its increased budget, if necessary, the company may delay payment of rebates to 2025 in this preferred solution. Alternative one, which they claim is a modest budget increase, is to increase the electric EE budget for calendar year 2024 by $18 million. The company maintains electric EE offerings for the residential and income qualified programs, but specific to the business programs, the company will pay rebate applications received as of July 31, 2024, and delay payment of all other program rebate applications received to 2025. Alternative two is no budget increase, and the company will endeavor to reasonably manage the electric EE budget to the currently approved amount of $92.9 million for 2024. The company maintains in this option to keep electric EE offerings for the residential and income qualified programs, but with flexibility to delay rebate payments to 2025 if necessary. The company will not process or pay out rebate applications submitted to the business program until 2025, definitely under that alternative too. In response to the Commission's request for supplemental information, the company explains that after identifying that the measures supporting indoor agriculture lighting were a driver of the increased forecasts. On April 16, 2024, the company removed lighting for this sector from the Strategic Energy Management Program, as the company determined this market space no longer needed the long-term, high-touch engagement associated with that program. The company communicated this change to impacted vendor implementers in April. On that day, the company also notified customers and trade partners it was discontinuing a rebate bonus for indoor agricultural lighting effective June 15, providing 60 days of notice to customers and market participants. They say this was consistent with the applicable terms and conditions of the company's indoor agricultural lighting program. However, discontinuance of the rebate bonus actually caused a material increase in applications for indoor agricultural lighting prior to the date of the planned discontinuation, with the company continuing to receive rebate applications for this program through the end of July, even though activity took place prior to the bonus expiration date. On July 29th, the company hosted a meeting with regulatory stakeholders where it raised concerns of potential budget overruns. According to the company's supplemental information, as of July 31, it has completed 5,645 business energy efficiency applications. Another 556 are in review, and approximately another 341 are in the pipeline. Most of the expenditure comes from just 4 programs: business energy assessments, lighting efficiency, new construction, and strategic energy management, representing 95 to 99% of dollars spent and energy savings for applications in review or in pipeline. So several parties oppose the budget increase. Those include staff, UCA, Climax, and Colorado Energy Consumers. They support alternative 2, which is no budgetary increase. Staff suggests that it does not consider public service's questionable management of those programs to be a compelling reason justifying the imposition of additional costs onto ratepayers. Furthermore, staff is concerned that authorizing any DSM budget increase outside the traditional structure of strategic issues and DSM plan proceedings could damage the certainty and stability with the structure, which the structure currently provides, and undermine the complicated balance of considerations that take place in settlement negotiations. Climax also points to settlement integrity as grounds to dismiss public service's request for more funds. They say now, after minimal notice and no focused negotiations among the settling parties, and no reference to the settlement, public service's preferred option proposes to increase the EE budget by about $34 million and cast the settlement obligations aside as if they could be disregarded as no longer applicable. If allowed, that tactic has significant implications for parties to negotiate settlements in good faith in all other cases, including the pending settlement of the 24 to 26 DSM plan in docket number 23A0589EG. CEC notes that the energy transition is expensive and becoming precipitously more so, with over $19 billion in plans CapEx over the next 5 years, a projection that has dramatically more than doubled in just the past year. Gratefully, many of the Commission's decisions include cost containment provisions, they say, but these decisions need to carry weight and meaning. It cannot be the answer to simply allow more and more spending when budget management gets tricky. If the Commission were to now unwind the cost containment provisions previously ordered in the context of DSM, there's nothing to safeguard against recurrence in implementing the Clean Energy Plan, the Transportation Electrification Plan, the Clean Heat Plan, the Distribution System Plan, and more. UCA argues this problem was caused solely by public service due to the company's mismanagement of these programs. If the Commission authorizes any additional funds, those funds should be charged to the company's shareholders alone. Ratepayers must be held harmless. UCA notes that this issue of overage was recently ruled upon by the Commission in decision number C24-0448, where the Commission ruled that public service cannot assume it is entitled to recover costs outside of established budget requirements through the normal operation of the DSMCA. UCA also argues that EEBC and SWEEP's motion for declaratory order and injunction are in violation of their obligations under the settlement under 22A0315EG, which states no formal action, which states any party agreeing to the settlement will take no formal action in any administrative or judicial proceeding that would have the effect, directly or indirectly, of contravening the provisions or purposes of this settlement agreement. Several parties support the additional budget. Those include Public Service, CEO, EEBC, SWEEP, WRA, and Denver. Support the greater provision of funds for the DSM program implementation or similar solutions. WRA, SWEEP, and EEBC suggest that the overextended budgets were the most cost-effective products within the business program, delivering MTRC values of between 3.4 and 3.8, and UCT values between 3.1 and 4.1. They note that the uptick in the lighting efficiency product was driven in large part by bonus rebates that were extended. They also repeat that the suggestion that the cessation of programs has thrown the energy efficiency market into turmoil, jeopardizing the long-term viability of the company's DSM programs, although the company has appropriately restarted its residential electric DSM programs. WRA, SWEEP, and EBC suggest that waiting until 2025 for rebate payments for 2024 work will cause an enormous financial burden for EEBC members and the DSM industry. They suggest that both of the company's alternative options do not solve the budgetary problem at hand. Instead, they merely kick the can down the road, and that by delaying rebate processing until 2025, the company would develop a large backlog of projects that would eat away at the 2025 budget and will lead to a similar issue next year. These entities argue that Public Service's authorized DSM budget is not a hard cap, and the presumption of prudence applies with the understanding that circumstances could dictate additional budget. Nonetheless, they suggest the Commission indicates certain conditions to the additional budget. First, the Commission should make explicit that none of the incremental budget approved by the Commission should contribute toward either of the goal achievement or incremental net benefits that are included in the company performance incentive mechanism calculation. Second, the Commission should make clear that any rebates and savings deferred until 2025 will not count toward the company's 2025 performance incentive mechanism. And third, the Commission should clarify that all under recovery on the company's DSMCA mechanism in 2024 do not earn any interest through a carrying charge. If the Commission adopts the preferred solution with the above modifications and establishes a presumption of prudence, EEBC and SWEEP request that the Commission still issue a decision regarding their pending petition for declaratory order. Specifically, they retain their request that the Commission find and determine the Public Service cannot modify DSM plan rebates and eligibility without a 60 or 90-day notice process and associated filing, DSM plan amendment, or other relief that may be requested by the company. CEO contends that the Commission has long supported DSM as a cost-effective resource and directed the company to aggressively pursue all cost-effective DSM in a prior order. CEO states that it strongly supports the company's intention that programs for income qualified and residential customers continue without interruption. CEO offers the following for Commission consideration. One, direct the company to halt or limit any unscheduled or promotional bonus incentives they provided in the second quarter, especially in the business program. Direct the company to reevaluate the net to gross ratio of any products that are currently over budget and to file for any adjustments through the 60-day notice process. Clarify that the total budget for 2024 and specific additional budget amount that has a presumption of prudence. And four, direct Public Service to remain attentive to program participation and spending in 2025 and 26 to ensure the circumstance does not materialize again. Denver is concerned with customer and vendor confusion caused by program discontinuation. They agree with others who suggest the 60, 90-day notice process should have been used. Public Service should have had the foresight to anticipate a budget overrun earlier than halfway through the year. Denver evaluated the number of buildings by building size in its represented area and concludes there will be sustained interest in the company's electric EE programs, and that 2024 was not an anomaly, but rather a signal of what's to come, particularly as it requires all medium-sized buildings to either install LED lighting or renewable energy. The company states it believes this budget increase solution is in the best interest of customers and market participants, as it will provide continuity and will support additional cost-effective electric EV savings, will support the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, and will be another resource to support the company in providing its resource adequacy needs. I'll also note that as the company offered 3 options and the other parties offered numerous caveats to amend those options, the Commission has before it a wide array of potential pathways forward. I'll also note that in the event the Commission would like to obtain more information from public service at this juncture, advisors have developed another question set for your consideration today. I'll pause here for your discussion or to answer any questions.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mendelson. And I guess I'll share some thoughts where I'm coming from. And I'm pretty supportive of trying to ask some more questions. And then I'll turn it over to you, Commissioner Goman, and let you take it wherever you'd like to go. For me, setting energy efficient investment levels is a constant balancing act. We have a TRC test that looks at cost effectiveness from a societal perspective, including environmental benefits. We also consider utility cost tests with federal incentives, as well as a participant test that looks solely at participating customer cost savings. As SWEEP, EECB, and WRA effectively point out, these resource cost, environmental, and participant benefits can offer a compelling case for additional efficiency investments with TRC benefits greater than 3 to 1. At the same time, however, energy efficiency programs reduce utility sales and revenues in ways that can adversely impact non-participating customers. For example, the 500 gigawatt hour per year of savings associated with a company's 23-24 investments may reduce utility revenues by as much as $50 to $60 million in each year of the program's life. Given this reality that the net present value of the lost revenues likely exceeds the net present value of the TRC benefits, we also have a RIM test that measures the rate impacts on non-participating customers. Under these circumstances, where we live in a world of constrained resources, there is a real tension between these competing points of views, which we have balanced by setting budget caps in the context of fully litigated proceedings. As I understand the company's preferred path forward, it would increase spending by $34 million, or 37% more than the core budget, plus the 20% flexibility of $93 million. Taking all this into consideration, including the potential broader impacts of undercutting our prior DSM-SI decision and unwinding the 2023 DSM settlement agreement, I'm sympathetic to staff UCA, CEC, and Climax's comments on the importance of keeping to the balance struck in our prior decisions. In my view, the company's preferred proposal upsets that balance. At the same time, however, I also appreciate SWEEP and EECB helping us to better understand the potential disruption that will occur if these business programs are abruptly shut down, particularly for an extended period. For me, it seems like clear from the filings that the bonus rebate incentives were likely set too high to maintain the spending cap balance from our prior order, particularly in the indoor agricultural industry. To address these too high incentives, the companies on April 16, 2024, notified customers and trade partners that it was discontinuing an in-market rebate bonus effective 60 days later. Since providing the notice of discontinuance, the company observed a material increase in applications, especially for indoor agricultural lighting. Given where we're at with the company already out a letter pausing the business programs, as Mr. Mendelson mentioned, I'd like to ask a number of additional questions. More specifically, the company table A at page 6 claims that as of July 31st, it has spent $74 million. I'd like to know if the $74 million in funds has been sent out, or is this just the accrued liability? Is the company still processing paying rebates to in-review applications, or is it awaiting a PUC decision on the company's motion? Is the company contractually obligated to make these payments, or can the PUC or the company legally reduce the in-review bonus rebates for applications filed after April 16th without breaching executed contracts and in an orderly way? For the bonus rebate spending, I'd like a clearer explanation of the process. For example, does the customer or EE vendor get an initial approval before work has begun, or binding contract signed, and if so, when? Or are customer expectations set by the program design and informal company communications? In addition, Table A of the company's motion indicates that the $54.4 million has been paid to business programs as of July 31st. Table 2 of the company's supplemental information filing indicates that $42 million has been paid to business programs. I'd like to ask the company to clarify this apparent discrepancy. Referring to tables 1 and 2 of the company's supplemental information filing, I'd like to ask them to indicate the number of applications, dollars spent, and energy savings by general industry, including by the indoor ag industry. I'd also ask for a more detailed explanation of why the estimated pipeline investment is larger than the completed and in review spending. Is it possible to greatly reduce by as much as half or 3/4 this pipeline spending for applications filed after April 16th in an orderly way without breaching executed contracts? If not, why not? Furthermore, I'd like to better understand why we aren't using the 20% budget flexibility to manage unexpected issues like this. For me, that's part of the reason we approved that 20% flexibility. Finally, I'd like to get the reaction of the companies and the parties to a proposal to keep the overall approved 2023-25 spending levels where they're at, but bringing forward some spending from 2025 to quickly get these business programs up and running. This would require all of us to live within the overall multi-year spending caps that were set in our prior orders, unless we decided otherwise in a future case. Said another way, I'm very uncomfortable with unwinding the budget caps set in our prior strategic issues and 2023 settlement agreement decisions litigated over the better part of a year, and what seems to be, as staff suggests, a rush and abbreviated process. So that's that's where I'm at, and wherever you'd like to go, wherever you want to take this, Commissioner Gilman.
May not be physically able to talk as well now. Well, I will say to start out, I do appreciate the company's responses so far. I agree with you. I think we could ask additional questions to make things more clear going forward. Those additional responses were helpful in understanding what's happened to get us to today. And I appreciate that the company did, in reviewing the response, take proactive action as much as 4 months ago to try to mitigate some impacts where it saw programs going over budget. As you pointed out, unfortunately, instead of having the intended effect of limiting the spending in that category, it appears to have caused a gold rush in that particular area, which perhaps made the problem worse, although I think was a well-intended action from what we know today. But hopefully a lesson for the future in terms of how these things can be managed. I mean, potentially some sort of cap or first come, first serve is needed when things are winding down like that. So we don't have the sort of unlimited rush for funds that we saw happening here. But, despite this early action that happened in April, that frankly, I don't think the commission was really aware of, as that was kind of happening more on the implementation side. I'm still struck by the speed at which this issue's transpired here before us and has caused somewhat of an emergency situation before us. And it does appear a lot of people, whether utilizing the programs, deploying the programs for public service as partners, seem to have been unaware or blindsided by really major upheaval in these programs. And I think it just caused me to think, every now and again, there's an issue before us that really feels like a kind of no-win situation. I'm not exactly happy with any outcome that we get to here. And unfortunately, I think we find ourselves in this just due to the entire combination of circumstances. The commission's now faced with the choice of either spending significant additional ratepayer money with, as you pointed out, quite limited additional process and information compared to what we would see as the typical process to set these budgets, or in the alternative, face the potential for widespread disruptions, not just in 2024. If you look at the company's filing, it's fairly clear that alternative two would potentially utilize the entire 2025 budget before 2025 even starts. So I think the disruptions could go into 2025 and beyond, which could potentially gut a market, contractor base, and a pipeline that's likely taken decades to build in terms of fostering cost-effective efficiency work. So those are the two really unappealing, I think, options that seem to be before us right now. And so, there's also, as kind of to that point, major implications here, not only for 2024, which is the specific issue we're talking about, but for 2025, for 2026, as we go on. While there have been some mitigation moves here, it's not immediately clear to me if that's enough. And now we expect 2025 and 2026 to be more or less on budget, or if additional kind of changes to measures or modifications are going to be necessary to ensure that we don't go well over budget in the coming years as well. I think we're in a constant churn of these DSM proceedings, it seems. And that's one thing that is maybe a bit frustrating here. At times it seems as though some of those are used to relitigate previous outcomes and just kind of create somewhat of an inefficient, frustrating, confusing process here. Even the fact that this is all occurring in the 315, which is the 2023 DSM plan, we have technically approved budgets for 2024 through 2026 in another proceeding. So, I think we're in a 2024 problem right now, but this really lays to bear some bigger questions we'll want to ask ourselves going forward as well about the churn of these DSM proceedings and how we can, come upon the right, efficient, consistent structure to move these programs forward as we go forward. So, understanding your perspective, and we're the only two here today. So understanding your perspective, I think was helpful. So if you want to move forward with asking additional questions, I've provided Mr. Mendelson with an amendment, fairly comprehensive amendment to some of the questions he originally proposed. And given my vocal cord situation, I would maybe ask Mr. Mendelson to read those to you if that works. There's significant overlap on a few of the questions as to some that you asked. So perhaps what we would do if we do want to go forward with that is maybe ask Mr. Mendelson, expediency is key here, I think, with this issue. Maybe we'll ask Mr. Mendelson to try to blend together what he can blend together here today and come out with a final list. But if it works for you, Chairman, and Mr. Mendelson, maybe I'd ask him to provide those questions.
Yeah, that'd be great. And I'll turn to him in a second. I just want to say I largely agree with everything you've said and would welcome a broader conversation at some point about the process and how the DSM plans fit with the strategic initiative dockets. And the only thing I'd add to what you said is echo a point CEC made in their filing, which is we're going to be faced with similar issues in the TAP and the clean heat plan potentially. And as we try and figure out what it means, what a settlement agreement means, what our prior orders mean, and the sort of processes we use and thinking we use to move away from it. So, Mr. Mendelson, do you want to read Commissioner Goman's question?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So first, please provide additional information on any programming that may imply multiple month commitments of funding for specific projects. For those projects already underway that have multiple month funding commitments, what is the company's obligation to continue with payments for progress made to date and for progress going forward to complete those projects? What are the company's current plans during the pause and under each of the options provided in the company's motion to continue payments for ongoing projects that began prior to the program pause? In which category of spending in review pipeline do those future expenditures for projects already underway appear? Please elaborate further on what information and commitments the company has related to projects in the pipeline, including, does the company have any explicit guarantees to fund pipeline projects at the anticipated levels? If these are projects that have not yet submitted applications, provide a detailed description of how the company is aware of the expected volume, expenditure, and savings associated with these projects. Since we are in the latter half of 2024, what percentage of the pipeline expenditures and savings does the company expect to hit in 2024 versus 2025? And how is the company aware of the expected timing? If incentive levels are adjusted for specific programs, does the company anticipate that pipeline projects would necessarily be at existing incentive levels, or could they be modified to new levels? Commissioner Gilman also expanded question I had about to what extent the forms that the company commits a payment, just distinguish between in review versus pipeline categories. And also added to the next question regarding to explain the application and rebate payment process in greater detail, adding, please respond with the process specific to each program type where appropriate. Please provide information on any caps on rebates per program per year or lifetime that exist within the offerings to limit expenditures to a single facility or owner. An expansion on the question that begins, most of the pipeline application dollars to be invested come from a single category, new construction. Commissioner Gilman added representing that for 2024, only 4.5 months to go. Also, please indicate if the pipeline work projected here has any relationship to work that is ongoing or already contracted with trade allies or end customers. Tables 1 and 2 in the company's response to commission questions include information on incentives that are completed in review and in pipeline. Related to the information provided, please provide additional detail on the following. Why the $3.8 million of pipeline lighting efficiency projects appears to have dramatically reduced energy savings per dollar spent than projects both completed and in review. Why the $10.4 million new construction in the pipeline shows a materially improved energy savings per dollar spent than the projects both completed and in review. The company expects a dramatic uptick in applications for data center efficiency in the remaining months of the year based on values provided related to the pipeline. However, the company expects to spend only $10,000 for a 20-fold increase in applications. Please elaborate on this projection and more broadly, the impact that the emergence of more data centers could have on DSM offerings and spending targeted at that sector. Have company forecasts taken into account at all the pause put on all business programs, which has lasted 3 weeks to date, into the in review and pipeline expenditures? Please provide background on which categories are most likely to be impacted by the pause and any idea on projected impact. Um, Please quantify the expected expenditures and savings for natural gas that are linked to business EE programs that are currently paused. Relate those figures to overall annual budgets and goals for natural gas savings. The company indicates that the overage based on forecast was primarily driven by indoor agriculture. However, those increases appear to happen across several program categories, making tracking of the impact difficult to comprehend. To the extent possible, please provide data showing for completed in review and pipeline projects the breakout of dollars and savings that are represented by indoor agriculture in particular, so this impact can be better understood. The company indicates that the use of rebates by indoor agriculture have exceeded expectations on market size. Does the company have any insights into the perceived demand for rebates for that sector after removal of the bonus incentive? Does the company have any indication of if additional adjustments should be made to rebates or incentives aside from the discontinuation of indoor agricultural lighting from the SEM program and discontinuation of the in-market rebate bonus for indoor agricultural lighting that has already been adjusted in order to manage the budgets in 2025 and 2026? Does the company have any other promotional bonus incentives that were in place at the time of the pause? If so, please elaborate on the ability and potential impact of suspending those bonus incentives. Please reevaluate the net to gross ratio of any programs that are over budget compared to the anticipated net to gross associated with the same programs in 22A0315EG and 23A0589EG. And finally, in its response to the sweep EEBC motion, the company argues that the 60-90-day process was never intended to preclude the company from managing to its approved budget by pausing, delaying, or waitlisting rebate applications. If inclusion of this process in settlement agreement implies that stakeholders believe such a process is necessary for more minor changes to program parameters and offerings, why does the company feel that more drastic changes can or should occur unilaterally? Can the company identify going forward how stakeholders or the commission could or should be notified and involved prior to such drastic action like program pauses or delays?
I have one more. Sorry. I sent it to you too late, Mr. Mendelson. One additional question is that given that the entirety of the overspending appears to be in service to commercial or business customers, is reevaluation of the allocation of the DSMCA between rate classes a reasonable accompaniment to any budget increase for 2024?
Yikes. I guess, well, first I just say I like the idea of having Mr. Mendelson read our questions. I may glom onto that. I guess, Commissioner Gilman, are you okay if Mr. Mendelson tries to harmonize my questions and your questions? He has all my stuff in writing as well into an ABC order that would ask for responses. I'm thinking maybe Friday next week, so we could take it up at our, they'll give them, 10 days to respond. And then we take it up in September 4th meeting. Does that make sense to you?
Let me, Mr. Mendelson, just to be clear, I was supportive of the questions that you had proposed as well. So mine were, you didn't read those out, but I understand you had your work cut out for you and the expanded list. So as you're blending those together,
I think I took up much of Mr. Mendelson's questions, so I maybe somewhat amended format. So I think basically what he asked got in there.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I guess just thinking process going forward, because I want to think this through. Let me get my bigger calendar up. So you're talking responses by the 30th of August, next Friday?
Yes.
And then what do you, and this might be where we phone a friend for Ms. Dundas or Mr. Mendelson, what do you see for progress, for process following that? Are you perceiving like moving forward with a hearing and hearing from other parties, or you think we will just have these questions asked to the company just so that we can kind of coordinate and organize? I mean, I certainly feel that time is of the essence, and I very much regret that by the time these questions get answered, it will already have been a full month. So I just want to understand, not saying no additional process is possible, but I think we should ideally lay out our vision for that now so that people can be prepared, or we can have like a path forward that we think this will take to get to some decision point.
I I would I guess I would allow and encourage parties to respond to these questions to the extent they have interest and appropriate, also by August 30th. I would view us deciding this with all three of us September 4th. And at that time, perhaps figuring out what we want to do on more process. I mean, it's I mean, we have a DSM settlement from 2023 governing 2024. We have all the 2025 budgets in front of us. I don't know from a process perspective what to do right now to figure out how to address it or even get the right parties in front of us. So I don't know, Mr. Mendelson, Ms. Dundas, I'm not prepared to set hearing dates now. Mr. Mendel, or even know what the subject of the hearing would necessarily be, or even what case the hearing would be in if it's impacting 2025 and 2026. So I think we have shape at the table issues. So, Mr. Mendelson, Commissioner Gilman.
Well, just to clarify, I mean, we have issues across the board, right? But I think for expediency, the 2024 is probably treated as its own thing. I wouldn't suggest that in a hearing or even in much of these questions, you know, there's a few that implicate some future action, but I think primarily that's probably a different conversation. So we don't kind of bog down and slow down this decision. Just to be clear, for my perspective, I think whatever would happen here, if it's a hearing or whatever, to get to some conclusion is fairly specific to 2024. But obviously there are broader implications that we need to find the home for and figure out where to talk about as we move forward.
Well, I just say I share your desire, emphatically share your desire to get these programs started up as soon as possible. So, Mr. Mendelson, did you want to add something?
I think it's possible that we could take the next filing and set of information that's provided up at that subsequent CWM. I think there's a holiday just after, so it will be challenging. And
You want to make the deadline the Thursday, the 29th?
yeah, I think that could help if we make the deadline Thursday. If the commission's intent is to try to take it up at the following CWM, I would make it.
I think we got to take it up on the 4th.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it gets any better for us if we read week because we're in a hearing the entire week. So there's 0 minutes to.
2 hearings. We got the Fiasco gas rate case and we got the Comanche 3 PIM. So, Mr. Mendelson.
I think that could work. If the commission is not interested in trying to set a hearing date now for potentially for the future, we can do our best to gather the information and present it to you for for deliberation on the 4th. And given that this is the second request for information, hopefully it makes moot any need to have a hearing. That we have all the information necessary to go forward.
Maybe. Setting these budgets took like the better part of a year the first time, and now we have proposals to increase them by 30 to 40% on motions. So it's Ms. Dundas.
Yeah, Chair, I think I was just going to echo what you said, is that I think if the commissioners aren't comfortable setting a hearing date today or determining whether a hearing is necessary, let's leave that question open. But I think I heard from you, Chair, that you'd be open to replies on the same time frame from the other parties. And I think since this isn't getting decided on the merits today, there might be some merit in at least allowing or encouraging replies to the first supplemental responses on a similar time frame. And then
I like that. I like that. So we can so we'll solicit additional requests from the company to the extent parties want to weigh in on the questions we ask. We'd encourage that, and we'd also solicit reply comments on the company's filings from Monday. Is that what you're suggesting, Ms. Dundas?
Yeah, so I would set the deadline for reply comments to the 8/19 supplemental comments on 8/29, and then there's not much time then to set reply deadlines to that second supplemental filing you're ordering today. But if they have thoughts independent of the company's responses, they could be provided on the same timeline.
Okay. Does that work for you, Commissioner Gilman?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think we've been left the time to really maneuver ideally here. Ideally, I think it would be ideal to get some responses to the second set, but I'm not really seeing it. Not really seeing it in the calendar. I mean, I guess if it would kind of get the sacrifice of expediency, I guess first thing in the morning on the 3rd, and we can try and read them, but it's going to be a difficult timeline.
I don't know. Are you prepared for the gas rate case right now? You may be better prepared.
Yeah, that's all day on the 3rd.
It's I think it starts on the yeah.
It's difficult. It's difficult to find kind of the expedience that this requires within the calendar.
Yeah, the gas rate case starts September 4th at 1.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible if other parties wanted to give some response by the morning of the 3rd, we could get it read, but it's going to be very difficult.
I don't think I'd add something on the 3rd. I just don't want to be put in that position of trying to decide something without having a chance to talk to counsel and advisors. Mr. Mendelson,
I was just going to suggest
you want to. Well, I guess we could try and make it due next Wednesday and then give people till what are we going to do? Make it due on Labor Day?
That's what I was going to suggest is we could require the company to submit by Wednesday and give the other parties till Friday, and then we'd have at least Tuesday to review everything. But it's incredibly tight, and obviously there's a lot of questions there for the company to respond to.
Another option would be to set the schedule Mr. Mendelson just laid out, and this is not my case, but I believe the settlement might come in, if there's a settlement in that gap case, Tuesday, so we could put this back on the agenda next week if there's availability to give the parties more time than what you just laid out.
you want to put this on the 11th? That would allow for comments and reply.
That's also an option. I was just thinking that we would move forward with the tight timeline Mr. Mendelson laid out, but just acknowledging that if something else moved on your calendar, that there'd still be time to change the deadlines next week.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Commissioner Gilman.
I'd keep it fast. I think we need to keep our options open in case we need a hearing. Just laying out there, the 13th is like the only date. So we'd have to move pretty fast to get a hearing if that's what has to be done. So why don't we try for company responses the 28th, end of day the 28th, any answer, end of day the 30th. And we'll all have a lovely Labor Day weekend.
I guess I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with the hearing on the 13th. It's just 3 hearings in 2 weeks. It's just well. All right. So you okay with that, Mr. Mendelson? 28th and 30th?
Just the 28th and 30th for company response and party responses.
Does that work for you, Commissioner Gilman?
Yeah, I think that signs Mr. Mendelson up for quite a bit of quick work this morning to kind of consolidate those questions and get them out, but available if you need to run them back by us.
Yeah, so I guess Mr. Mendelson, I think we're going to do this as an ABC order, but to the extent you want to talk to Commissioner Gilman, if there's questions, or talk to me if there's questions on my issues, do what you can to get this out sensibly.
Understood.
Does that work for you, Commissioner Gilman?
Yes, I will be in a workshop from noon to 4. But, part of the reason I had to have Mr. Mendelson do the talking for me. But yeah, I will
voice conservation.
reasonably available. Yeah.
Mr. Mendelson, Ms. Dundas, anything else on this?
Nothing further. Thank you.
Just one quick point. So the focus of the discussion today was on the company's budget motion. I just acknowledge that there's also the petition for deck order and the preliminary injunction motion still pending. Just for transparency, I imagine those will all go on the agenda at the same time on what we're imagining is the 4th.
Yep. That okay with you, Commissioner Gilman?
Yeah.
All right. Anything else, Mr. Mendelson, Ms. Dundas, Commissioner Gilman? Anything else before we adjourn?
No, nothing additional. Thanks.
All right. Good luck with your voice. Thanks all. We're adjourned.